Good morning. It's Saturday morning and it is March 20th. Um, Coming to you on another recording of a piece of artwork that I included in my Hidden Hope journey. It's a body of work that I created from about 2007 is probably when I really started getting into the abstract world with the intense texture and including all the repurposed items. 2007 till about 2017, about a 10-year journey of not just painting, but unraveling, peeling an onion layer after layer, however you want to put it. It was a step-by-step process, and it was, as they say, about taking a journey of 1,000 steps. You have to begin with one. So I had to delve into a lot of this to unravel a lot of pain. Now, as I shared in some of my other videos, I wasn't 100% aware what I was sharing. This piece, I think I was. I mean, I knew what the subject matter was when I started this piece. But what I've come to realize over the years is that this piece wasn't only about that subject matter, it encompassed an awful lot. It overlapped, it touched in different dimensions, I guess, and maybe that's the importance to all of the dimensional items that I have on this piece. So I'll get into it. This piece is, I call this piece Mary's Treasures. My mom's name was Mary, and I happen to be a Mary also. That was my mom. Her name was Mary Agatha. Mine is Mary Jo. Now, they did, when I was born, my first name was Mary, M-A-R-Y, and the second name was Jo, J-O. When I was 15, I asked if I could have it changed because I thought it was cooler. I thought it was unique. I had all kind of justifications for it, and they fit at the time, and my parents were okay with it. We even had it changed on my birth certificate so that it's legal. Now, here's the thing that I've come to realize about that. I was beginning, at the age of 15, to find ways of changing my identity and my authenticity, or creating one, because I don't think I really knew what my identity was. Not many people do at 15. But I wasn't okay with hanging around and waiting to find out. I started making the moves on changing how the world had, what I believed had been seeing me and the messages that I was receiving. So my mom and I were very close, right up to her death. I love my mother. I miss talking to her. There's so many things about my mom that are precious to me. But we had an extremely complicated relationship. And as you can see, this piece is very complicated. It still holds together as an image. I mean, it's cohesive in and of itself, but it's complicated. And when I started this, I was purging a lot of feelings, things that belonged to my mom, stuff I came across after she had passed. And I was able to, my dad allowed me to go through even more items that had been, like in sewing drawers and boxes, things that my mom, of course, naturally was never going to use again. And so he thought I would like to have it instead of throwing it away. So I started pulling all kinds of things out, and I started coming across things also that she had given me over the years. And this particular heart, she gave me one year, and it's ceramic, and it has flowers on it, And it says, "A daughter's love is precious." I believe she really meant that. I know how much my mother loved me and how much she cherished our relationship. I think in a lot of ways it was the first time that she ever felt connected to someone. I'm just assuming that based on a lot of things, but it makes me sad now to think that. I know she had some great friends, really close friends, people she had friends all the way till she died. But I don't know how deep they got. I don't know how much they talked about real intense feelings and or how much of their life was more about getting together and going out and enjoying company, playing cards, and all those things are nice, but I don't know how deep they got. I think there were areas of I know there were areas of my mom's life that she just did not and was not comfortable with revealing. And I think she shared a lot of stuff with my dad, and he was able to share a lot of those things with us after she was gone. But again, what I want this piece to say is I hold the memories close, but not unlike this heart, which, by the way, I dropped and broke, and when I did, I was really upset about it, but I couldn't throw it away, and I held on to it for quite a few years. And then I decided it would be that this was actually where I started when I started applying things. I had painted the background, and I used material, some very ancient, we're talking like 100-year-old lace, and things you couldn't use today, but I was able to put them into this piece using different materials and mediums and varnishes so that they would adhere and strengthen and actually get kind of hard. But this, when it broke, it was sort of like a signature of my heart being broken on many levels. And I found all these somebody had given me a box of old jewelry. They used to make costume jewelry. So there were a lot of crystals and old broken pieces. And there were tons of these crystals in here that were tear-shaped. I start gluing these in because, okay, first of all, my mom was born in May, so emerald, that's her birthstone. I was born in April, so the clear, that signifies me. The pink rose-colored was my mother's favorite color. So I used my tears to glue this all back together. And then from this, there's very old shell buttons and pieces off of material. Oh gosh, there's more lace. This is an actual note that my dad wrote. And it was about Jesus. I wish I could read the whole thing, but he knelt down, his head hung low, his heart was heavy. He knew this hour had come. He was filled with woe, and so much of it I can't read, but it was about Jesus. My dad loved Jesus so much. My dad converted to Catholicism when he got married to my mom. And so my dad was my mom's knight in shining armor. He really did rescue her. But because he was also broken himself, he didn't heal her. What he did with his love for her and his care for her in the best way he possibly could was he held her together all their married life. He held her together. And eventually it broke him down. He couldn't hold himself together after she passed away. But he believed that was his purpose, was to rescue her. And he did one heck of a job. And then this piece over here, I got it out of a dictionary. I printed it out because it it's a definition of the word comfort. My mother was looking for comfort her entire life. Physical comfort. I think she couldn't grasp a lot of things in life unless she was physically comfortable. If she was in physical pain, she didn't want anyone around her. She shut everyone down. She wanted to hide in a dark room. I remember she had wound up having to have her gallbladder removed because she had gallstones so bad, but nobody could tell because she wanted all the lights out all the time, and you couldn't even tell that her skin and her eyes were yellowing. And my dad finally convinced her to go to the doctor, and the doctor was like, "You're going in the hospital. You've got issues. you have jaundice." So it turned out she had to have her gallbladder removed, and I remember there were tons of stones. So Mom was always looking for comfort. That was her number one thing in life, as if she couldn't be totally herself unless she was physically comfortable. So we all did what we could to make her comfortable. And, oh gosh, let's see. There's a cat on here. My mother had a terrible fear of cats because when she was a little girl, someone locked her in a room with a wild cat. It was a feral cat, and it just went evidently crazy. She said it flew up and down the drapes that were in that room, and it was coming at her, and she was just literally frozen in fear. So she had a fear of cats the rest of her life. So that's what the cat is. The dog is on there because we loved dogs. My mother loved a dog. Dogs were funny and, in her mind, comforting. Now, both of these were old postcards, authentic, original old postcards that came out of a book that was my grandmother's that I'm still trying to find to this day. It got put somewhere safely and I can't find it. It's so safe. But anyway, these were, my grandmother had a scrapbook when she was a little girl. So this is pre-1900. These were like 1896, 1897, somewhere in that range. This just has stuff on it. My mother sewed, so there were things out of her sewing box and her sewing machine drawers. She was an amazing seamstress. She had so many gifts. And she hid them all from everyone because she was always afraid. Her and my relationship was amazing, but it was complicated, just like this. In the end, we both knew we loved each other, and that's really what counted. And I know I'm going to see her again one day in heaven, and she isn't going to have any of that complication or fear or pain. She will have total comfort. And I'm so happy for her for that. But what's so much of the relationship that I had with her, and none of that is her fault, she learned from her mother, to her mother's best ability, how to be a mother. But what I learned was that I took on a lot of her attributes because I wanted to fix her my whole life. Because it made me sad that she was always upset or scared or isolating or hiding or sick. And it made me sad that my dad constantly did everything he could to try to fix things for her to make her comfortable. And most of those things only lasted a short period of time. So they had this unusual relationship. Well, I took on a lot of those things as well. As the only girl, the youngest girl, and then because I was sexually molested when I was only 9 by her mentally handicapped brother, I just knew that if I told anyone about that, my mother would just fall apart. And the whole family would probably break up. I felt that my mom would blame my dad and that my dad would leave. And I was just that scared me more than, losing the security of the family I had, no matter how sick it was. That scared me more than telling anyone about what happened to me. So therefore, I took it upon myself to fix the situation so that no one would have to know about it. I made sure that my mother and father never knew. Now, my dad found out eventually when he was 85, but my mother never knew. And I was too scared to tell her because I believed it would break her. I was more worried about what it would do to her than what happened to me. So my identity began to be a fixer, a caretaker, a people pleaser, all those things. Complicated. So I could go on and on and on, and I'm not, because I've been on here for quite a while, longer than any of my other videos. But again, this is part of a series called Hidden Hope. Even though we had this complicated, difficult, frustrating, incredibly loving, joyful, wonderful relationship here on earth, we were still able to find each other in the end, right before she passed away, the night of her death. So, none of that stuff really, truly matters anymore. But it did help define who I believed I was. Not who I was, but who I believed I was. And so what I'm trying to share is that working on this is long, and it took many, many, many months to complete. It was long, painstaking. I'd put it aside. I would hate it. It would frustrate me. I wanted to throw it out the window a few times. But I kept pushing forward on it because I felt like there was something burning inside of me that I knew I needed to work on it. By doing that, it helped give me a picture. It helped take some of that stuff that was all hanging around up here, because I couldn't put it back here where it needed to be, and I put it here. And now I can reflect on it, on the beauty, on the pain, on the love, on everything. So I just want to give you hope, and I want you to know that there are ways of coping, and there are many, many ways of getting out what you're feeling inside of you, and it doesn't have to be through anger. It doesn't have to be through drugs, drinking away until you're numb, watching shows, binge watching shows all the time so you can escape. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with doing some of those things occasionally, but if that's what you're doing to cope, try something like this. And if you're interested in something like this, give me a shout, because I might be able to help you walk through something like this. Because I know that that's what God wants me to do now. He wants me to reach out to whoever's listening, because that is who wants what I have, or you wouldn't even be here, especially now after 17 minutes. That I'm here to give you encouragement, shine a light on something that does not have to lock you in forever and make you feel bad about yourself, or low all the time, anxious, depressed, whatever. And it just helps to share it too. If you can find safe people to share some of this stuff with, some of us don't have the ability to say out loud, so we need to put it in picture form. So anyway, I'm going to cut this off now. As you can tell, I'm very passionate about this. At this time in my life, boy, when I see myself now on this camera, what I'm starting to realize is I have so many attributes of my mother, and I needed to resolve. I've got to resolve a lot of those issues that I had with her when I was younger. Some of the frustration and the anger that I couldn't let go of, the resentment, the fear for her, all those things have got to be resolved, because I'm going to be with her again one day in a heavenly place, and I don't want any of that stuff still hanging around. So, this is Mary Jo Stoutberg, artist and complex trauma survivor. And I hope you're blessed by this, and I pray that you have a glorious day. Take care.